Hi, I'm Peter Marr, a downhomer and longtime NHL play-by-play broadcaster. This is Downhome Hockey on Downhome Corner. It's my pleasure to introduce a couple of guys exploring the game from a downhomer's point of view. Here are your hosts, former player and coach John Paris Jr. with Steve Bujold.
Well, thank you very much, Peter Marr. And I am Steve Bujold, my co-host, John Paris Jr. Hi, John.
Hi, Stephen. How are you? How was your week?
My week is good. My week has been good and not as good as yours, of course, because you've been shooting 76s on the golf course. I shot 76. No, actually, I shot in the low 60s a couple times. You're talking about 9 holes, right?
Well, I'm talking about 18 holes.
Oh,
but you
well,
may
okay.
be talking
Well, yeah,
about 9.
yeah, okay.
Or are you talking about the first 3 or 4 holes?
The high score wins, right? Okay, well, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, that's great, man, and that's and that's encouraging to other golfers too. I think it's a game that you always want to improve at, and you always feel that you have a chance. And there you go, you're in your 70s and you're shooting in your 70s, so you're gonna hit that magical number where you shoot your age. That's the holy grail of golfing, isn't it?
That's the objective that I had, but. Don't forget, now I spent 2 years just hitting balls at the range, and I had the golf pros around me all the time with free lessons, et cetera, and so forth. So the bottom line is the effort you put into it, and but every game's a different game. Every time we pick up the golf club, it's never the same.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's fun. I enjoy it.
It's a much shorter hockey stick for sure. But I want to commend you. You have a new role, and I want you to explain what that new role is and what you're going to be doing.
Well, that'll be a resource person with the NHL Coaches Association. That's mainly for a veteran or aspiring coaches out there that, regardless of where they're from, what country, what culture, et cetera, and so forth. We know hockey's a worldwide sport. And there's always room for improvement, and I'm still learning the game. Still, I don't know that much because at my age, I found out I didn't know that much. The more you study it, the more it opens up other avenues. And what mainly that they're asking me to do is to be more or less a resource person, someone to guide the younger coaches, the veteran coaches that maybe become stale for whatever the reasons may be. It's difficult for veteran coaches, especially in the NHL, AHL, to have the time to go out and improve let's just say their knowledge and the ways of execution. The game changes so much in the training and the equipment that you do not always have that ability like let's say a college coach or a junior coach or midget coach. They have ample time, freedom. They don't travel. It's not as demanding. But in the NHL, it's a different story. Also, the aspiring coaches that do not understand the criteria, that you need to have and need to meet in order to reach the high levels. They think, oh, I'm good at my level, I can do this. No, that's not it. There's a huge difference between a National Hockey League coach and a junior coach or a midget coach or junior A or whatever it may be, simply because an NHL coach is tactical and strategic. But a minor hockey coach, he's going to work junior coach. I'm not talking junior major now it's very demanding. But if you go to junior A, junior B, those levels, midget, that's development. You're more a mentor or tutor. You're not basically in there with this strategy because you're not competing against the high-end coaches like in the NHL. You have 32 coaches there that head coaches are all top-notch, and then you have 32 assistant coaches and another 32 assistant coaches in the league. So basically what it comes down to is being able to manage not only the team. I say it like this. It goes from the classroom to the dressing room to the bench to the ice. And this is where I come in because that's where my strength is. But I used other sports because I had the time. When I was coaching youth and that years ago, I was spending my time in NFL camps with Bill Walsh, San Francisco 49ers, or Bobby Cox with the Atlanta Braves, et cetera, and so forth, the NBA basketball. And the bottom line was I was learning from them. What we say I was stealing from them, but I really wasn't because they were paying everything. I just had to get there. And I would spend a week, 2 weeks with them in their training camps, and you learn. Now, so basically they're taking what I've learned over the years and we're using that to help others to move forward. And I've always wanted to see as many coaches be as successful as possible. And I think they understand that my ego is not based on, I don't have to. At my age, I don't see the game the same way others do or have the same aspirations. I'm happy if, for example, let's say Stephen Bujold wanted to be a coach, and I was able to help him become a top-notch coach, and he made it. I'd be just as happy as Stephen Bujold.
Yeah, it's the process, It's like creating something. I mean, it's a little like music and or a movie or something. When you put together a project, half the buzz is creating it. I remember Stephen Wright, the comedian, years ago. They used to ask him, "Where do you get all these one-liners? Your whole show is all one-liners." And they said, "Do you get people to write in and get these jokes for you?" And he said, no. He said, "I don't." He said, "People send me wonderful jokes." And he said, "I try not to listen to them and read them, but because," he said, "half the buzz is creating it, And I think that's a similar thing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree with that, because the major problem that a lot of the aspiring coaches have, especially junior coaches, you'll hear them, or midget coaches, you'll hear them all say, well, the first question they will ask, well, how did so-and-so get there and I'm not there, or I'm better than so-and-so? It's reaction, what I call it. They're too involved in the reaction of how somebody else got there instead of worrying about their personal performance and learning curve. Because you cannot just arrive and apply the drills, exercises. Because a lot of coaches have tons of drills, thousands of them. I call them drill masters. But that's not the game. The game, the performance factors, execution, it's all of the other different factors, cerebral awareness, the being accountable, being able to be consistent. All of those things are all in there and involved. And that's, each one of them within themselves are a trademark. And that's something that you have to assimilate, because you just can't give them drills, because the drills have to be broken down. Well, why am I doing this drill?
The
Repetition,
why.
Is it doing it? Yeah. Who and who?
Yeah.
Who does what?
Yeah.
What's the end result? So you have to have themes, etc. You have to break it down. You should be more like, if you're not a teacher, you shouldn't be doing drills.
Well, you talk about the who, and stuff, I mean, the knowing your role in a game or in a particular situation in a game, whether it's, say, as an example, a penalty kill or power play or what have you, that's very important. I mean, you put the ego aside, forget about I'm not the star. My job is to come in and do this. If I do this very, very well, my team really benefits, and they concentrate on other areas. There's that positive influence that can trickle down and affect other players in the team as well,
Well, it's accepting it. The most important part is accepting to understand that you may have to adjust to doing something that you may not want to do. That's maybe not your favorite way of doing things. For example, a young man that comes along and he's had 120 points, 130 points in major junior hockey or in junior A hockey, and then all of a sudden he arrives in pro hockey. Oh, I can't do this anymore. So he, instead of being on the top line and the go-to guy, all of a sudden he's a bottom six instead of a top six. Now his mental's being played with. How he adjusts to that, how he understands it, how he accepts it, or he doesn't accept it is going to dictate how long he's going to be around. That's why so many players never make it. And they question that. Yeah, Joe may be better than Billy, but Billy may have more character and more understanding and is able to assimilate better than Joe, because Joe has all that talent and skill, but he's just not ready to make the adjustments. He doesn't understand the importance of roles, and that you only have so many players on a team. You can't have 15 goal scorers on your team. You're not going to win.
Yep.
So you don't need that. So that's why you have the roles, and you have to adjust. And the smart players, who are the coaches that can get through to them, or the kitchen table values that kick in, that they've learned at home from the parents, et cetera, and so forth, or from someone along the line that helped develop them, because no one person develops a hockey player. It's like a family thing. There's many people involved along the way before they get there.
Yeah, it takes a village to raise a hockey player for sure.
That's
But I mean,
exactly it.
yeah. Well, yeah, you're right though. I mean, especially in smaller towns and things like that. I can think back in the day when I played minor hockey, and there were certain families that were involved in certain tournaments, or you just kind of knew the involvement at different places, and it's all community, like you say. So that's a great thing about sports. Is it can be so much community, But I love the role thing, and that's how these final two teams got to where they're going to be into the finals in the NHL playoffs. Not many of us picked Dallas, of course, but the role in there, that's very important. And I think the role of so many of the other teams that make it that far is the role of coaches. And I know you might be a little biased, for coaches here, John, but I am myself. I've always been, and I've always thought that the coaching can be the final factor in a playoff series. If you take two teams and they're equally matched, I'll pick the team that has the coach that I believe in, always, every time. I picked Columbus over Toronto because of John Tortorella. Barry Trotz, I think, took the Islanders into that game 6 of the semifinals. They almost made the finals, for goodness sake. Who picked the Islanders, But yet a very good team if you really look at it, and they have everything needed to be a championship team. But I think Barry Trotz took them that far, And what's got Dallas into the finals is, the feel-good story of the year for coaching is Rick Bowness. Do you know Rick at all?
Yeah, I know Rick Bowness very well. I've known Rick Bowness since he was a young hockey player. Rick Bowness comes from the Maritimes. I knew his dad, Bob Bowness. Bob Bowness, his father, was signed with the Canadiens as a youth. Didn't make it because he was a little slow of foot and his foot speed, but he was a very, very smart hockey player. Had soft hands, sentiment. Rick, actually, you met his sister-in-law. Marie Bowness, she works with me with the Paris Way Cerebral Learning Center.
Oh,
she's our power and skating instructor. She actually works with many NHL teams. She goes to Europe too with the European pro teams, etc. Yeah,
she was in Montreal then, right?
Yeah, she was. She spent the week with me in Montreal
at that week-long session at Brossard and stuff.
Yeah, she was there.
Wow.
So and Rick was Rick played in Quebec in the Q. He played in the Quebec Junior Major Hockey League. So, like I said, he comes out of the Maritimes, and most of the hockey people from the Maritimes, you'll be surprised that in the hockey world, for the small number of people, we have the highest percentage of hockey people at higher levels.
I believe
We've had that over the years. Some people say that's because they want to get out of there. That's not true. The Maritimes is a great place to be. No, it's a great place to live. The winters are harsh, but we just have when you're born in the Maritimes, once a Maritimer, you rest a Maritimer.
I got you.
That's why I went back to give back. Well, part of the reasons when I went to Canada was, one, for my dad. I wanted to make sure I saw him before he passed, and two was because it was like going home. So for me, it was, well, hey, if I'm going to give back to somebody, I may as well there, even though you had a salary for it. But no, so that's why. And usually Spud's back on the island. He's back on the island. Gallant, Gerard. So a lot of the guys they come home.
Yeah, well, Rick Bowness does a golf tournament, charity golf tournament every year as well. I might have it wrong, but I thought it was out of Moncton. He remembers his roots and he remembers to give back. He's a good maritime boy. But what I find most impressive about Rick Bowness, and Peter Marr suggested, Peter was one of the early guests on the podcast, and I said, who would you recommend that I would interview? And he said, Rick Bowness. He said that without batting an eye. He said, well, he's into his 5th decade in the NHL. I went, what? And I hadn't, he's one of these guys who's always kind of been in the background, but such a big part of the fabric and the focal part and one of these guys that helps move the levers in teams, But Rick Bowness, as you said, began as a player and then he went into coaching, but he stayed mostly in the assistant coaching ranks. And maybe that's one of the secrets that he's kept employment in the NHL for all of those years and all of those decades, But I mean, it's remarkable in itself just to know that you're employed, that many years to still find a gig, because a lot of assistant coaching, you're working for a team this year and the coach gets fired and you're gone too, and now you're looking for another gig. There's only so many gigs out there. There's 30 teams in the NHL, so not everybody's looking for or 32. Sorry,
yeah.
But so it's pretty remarkable what Rick Bowness has accomplished to this point, and now as a head coach, taking his team into the finals with a chance to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's it gives
He's
you
been there before.
Yeah, but I mean, like it gives you the feel goods, Like I guess I'm just trying to kind of praise a little bit on Rick Bowness. But what have you got to say about him as a coach and a person?
First of all, Rick Bowness, he's well known in the hockey circles around the world. The National Hockey League, he's a highly respected hockey guru. What Rick Bowness brings is he understands, and it's adjustment. Rick Bowness had head coaching experience in the National Hockey League. He's been with a couple of teams. But Rick was smart enough to be able to identify exactly which route he wanted to take. He said he wanted to stay involved into the game. He wanted to be able to help other players become better prepared at what they were doing. And he said the best way to do that is in the assistant role. So he accepted his personality was able to accept that, and he adjusted to it. Now, as the years went by, he kept growing, he kept learning, because it's only normal. Every time you move on, or you're fired, or et cetera, you learn, you grow. That's why, and a lot of people misunderstand why a lot of coaches, they say they recycle them. No, those coaches learn.
Yes.
They're developing coaches the same way that they develop players. So the bottom line with Rick Bowness always has a knack of being able to communicate with players. Rick Bowness will prepare his teams. Rick, it's not what he's doing behind the bench that really matters, is what he did before he had to arrive to players arrive to the bench. Is what he did with the players in the classroom or the dressing room, or et cetera and so forth, around the video, how he sat down and broke down certain things and explained it to them. He's well prepared, and he prepares his players well. Now, the other point that he has that strength, all those decades means that he doesn't have negative baggage coming with him, because every time that he was let go or had to move on, he brought the positive with him. So he took what was positive out of it. He just tossed aside the negative. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. He said, been there, done that. I'm not going to do it again. So he'd move into the next step every time. So this is the difference. Players know this. Players automatically will understand when you start talking to a player and you start exteriorizing certain elements of the game, certain things that they have to do and why they have to do it and who has to do it, et cetera. They quickly grasp, hey, he knows what he's talking about. Or he doesn't have a clue. And then the players talk amongst themselves. Now, what Rick Bowness has that maybe another coach doesn't have, and I'll give you an example. In the series, Dallas, Rick had that. He knew rotations. But the patience factor, he was able to help the players adjust to that. He knew the importance of patience. You have to understand it. It's not just something that you come out and say, well, hey, you have to be patient, boys. We're going to play 3 periods. We're going to play the same way. This is our structure. There's always going to be a bunch of players, half of them that after a couple of shifts, they forget it. So you have to build that mindset. So he brought that to them. He brought the mindset of being able to assimilate, understand why and who, the responsibilities, and how to stay within a certain mindset without panicking, and how to create pressure simply by being consistent. Then he has the leadership. He probably sat down with Jamie Benn and one-on-one, not probably, I know he did. And he probably said, Jamie, look, I need you. Team needs you. City needs you. You're star. We need you to elevate your game. You got to put this team on your back, and you're going to have to carry it. They're going to follow you. Then he probably sat down with Radulov, et cetera. See, this is the way it functioned. And these players respect Rick Bowness. So Rick Bowness, with the years of experience, he's developed into a person that he knows what's going to happen, because a coach, after a while, you know exactly, oh, this is going to happen. You know the flow of the game. You can feel it. You can see it. You've been there. So you automatically know. Young coaches, they don't know that. They think they do, but they don't. If you haven't been around those top-end teams, you don't know. So basically, Rick Bowness, he's passionate by the game enough that he's an eternal student. Now, why would a man almost 70 keep studying the game. It's simply because we understand you never know too much. There's always something new to learn. And it's that passion to compete. And he accepted the role of assistant coach because he knew the longevity of assistant coach was much more percentage-wise profitable for him than to be a head coach, because you know a head coach, after a while, you're gone. Once your time is up, you may have 8 years, 10 years, 6 years, 3 years, 2 years. When it's up, you're gone, and you're going to disappear. But a good assistant coach will hang around a long time.
Yeah.
Brad Shaw's still around. He's a young guy. I had him in Atlanta with me, and Brad Shaw, his torch won't give him up. He was in St. Louis. He's been, 3 or 4 teams? So, and he's younger, but he'll hang around 5, 6 decades. And that's the role you have to accept. That's not my personality. But then again, too, health-wise, et cetera, with myself, different life experiences, I have a different thought process, different wants, different desires. And the assistant coach wasn't one of them. But Rick Bowness, he knew that. That's what he wanted. It was important to him. So me, it wasn't. So I lift my hat to him. He's an extremely, extremely articulate, smart man when it comes to what I call the kitchen table values. Rick Bowness has them.
Yeah.
And he's always, so the players all understand that. And it's like I said, Rick Bowness had a large part in winning for Dallas to win those games. Players win. Players are the ones who make the decision. When the players decide that they're going to follow and they're going to believe in you, the players will do the job. If you're a good salesperson, but a good salesperson is not like selling a car and telling them falseness. A good salesperson is by telling the truth and having them understand, being able to verify, research it, and see the results of it and say, yeah, he's right. That's a good salesman. So sometimes when they say you have to be a salesman, we have to explain what a good salesman brings. It's the honesty factor and the understanding, and the proof is in the pudding once they see it, because everybody's not gullible. And Rick Bowness is very honest, very straightforward, and he knows his strengths and he knows his weaknesses. Right now, the best coaches out there have done the job, actually. You never heard of him before very much talking about him in a head coaching role because he didn't have that success. But he had success. He's been to the finals before as an assistant coach with Vancouver.
Yes.
He knows, and he's watched. He's had to do the pro scouting at the same time as the other teams. So he basically understands. Barry Trotz is another, but we'll get to him. But that's what Rick Bowness's strength is. Rick Bowness's strength is he's a good salesman because he's honest, and what he gives you are facts. And if you research it and the results that happen, brings the players to understand, hey, we can trust them.
Yeah, it's one-on-one, right? It's all one-on-one with him. Yeah.
While you work with the individual, and after you've worked with the individual to help him become better prepared to be part of a team environment. You just don't come in and say you have to be a good team player, like you hear a lot of minor coaches say, or, and that's not their fault. It's not throwing stones at them. They just do not understand it. It doesn't work that way. You have to prepare them to be good team members, good teammates, et cetera, and so forth. And like I was talking to you earlier, and we'll get to that again, if you're not at the high elite levels, whether it be Bantam, Pee Wee, Midget, Junior, NHL, you're not going to I'm sorry, but you're not really going to have much opportunity to progress. So, and the coaching will not be the same because there's a different mindset. But we'll get into that another time.
This is a good example to get your concept in here on the kitchen table values. Talk about Rick Bowness and kitchen table values. Explain the concept and how it would apply to him, because he's very much a family man, and they've talked about the closeness of the family and the bubble and that kind of thing.
Well, Rick Bowness, I'll give you an example. He's not going to walk into the dressing room and say, you're going to do this, it's my way or the highway, or anything like that, the old school way, when they could do that with the 6-team era, and that because there were so many players that were available. But he's going to sit down and let's say he wants to put across a certain change within a system or within a structure. He'll sit down and he'll talk to the player and he'll say, well, what are your thoughts? I suggest, I have a suggestion. I suggest maybe we should try this. He doesn't tell them they have to. He suggests, makes a suggestion. And this is what will happen. What do you think? And what are your thoughts on it? And what he does, he'll bring the player to him instead of pushing him away. He brings him in, he brings him to the table, and he sits down and he talks to him the same way mom and dad would be talking to their children when they're at the table, and they're explaining maybe something that happened at school, or maybe something that happened, maybe they were being bullied, or maybe they weren't executing their homework properly, etc. So mom and dad, kitchen table values, the good ones, they're going to sit down. They don't give you orders, but they bring it to you in a way that you understand, and then you kind of you feel bad if you don't if you do not fulfill the suggestions that they're putting on the table, and you understand the reasons why and why you should and why you shouldn't. And this is what Rick Bowness will bring, that part of it. The other part, he'll bring love and care. Rick Bowness, if a player comes along and he may not have scored a goal, he may have only played 6 minutes that game, but he's noticed something. He'll come by the player, he'll tap him, and give him a little tap, or he might not even touch him, just say, hey, you know what? He said, I noticed that play that you made down. That's a great move. Thank you.
You could see
And then
that.
he'll walk away.
You could see that in some of
Yeah.
the games, when they did shots of the bench. You could see him talking to individual players, and I can imagine just that thing going on as you just described.
Yeah. He's talking to them, and he's not talking at them.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking with them. He's
Yeah.
discussing. But they know we see things behind the bench as the more that I see things today at my age that I didn't see at 30, 40, even 50. But I see it today, and he's seeing what he's seeing is things that another person may not see because that age and hockey maturity, his factor is not there. The game is quick. It's very fast, especially today's game. And there's so much skill and talent out there. But when you pay attention, you know what you're looking for, and you've actually been involved in the game a long time, the game is slow. The game's in slow motion. Rick Bowness does not see the game quickly. And when I can remember being told that many years ago, Scotty Bowman and Roger Nielsen were talking in the hallway, and they were just talking different situations. And Roger said, Coach, don't let anybody think that you're a defensive-minded coach. And the coach of Philadelphia Flyers and the Chicago Blackhawks came along, anyways, the coach, and he had been fired. And he came along and he said to me, he said, you'll know you're a good coach when the game slowed down. And I looked at him and he said, no. He said, when everything's like in slow motion and you can just see and adjust and it's easy, he says, just like picking up your fork to eating food, then you'll know that you're close to being a good coach.
Wow.
And so basically Rick Bowness is there. Rick Bowness has all of that. He sees it. Now, another coach, I'll give you an example now. Mike Babcock doesn't quite have that ingredient because Mike is sandpaper. So he's very coarse. So at times he'll come off in the wrong way. So there are things that, even though he's an outstanding coach, he's won a Stanley Cup, he does not have that slowness of the game vision that a Rick Bowness has acquired. But Babs is not working at the moment either. He had a good run.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, those are the values, the kitchen table values that are brought to the table, that he takes from the table, brings to the dressing room, to the player. And it's all about making the player feel comfortable, giving them the opportunity to make their own decision. And if they do not make their decision, Rick Bowness will explain to them, I do not want to have to just give you 2 or 3 minutes, or I do not want to have to put you in the stands as a healthy scratch. You're responsible for that. But I'm giving you the opportunity so it doesn't happen because I do not want to do it. I like you. So basically, and he'll tell you, these are the results. Now, if you do apply to this, if you listen to my suggestions, maybe you'll get more minutes. Maybe this will happen. And the team will be better. And then we have more opportunity to win because it's about we. It's not about I. So all of those little things like that Rick Bowness brings. And that comes from home. And it comes from also not only just from dad, but it comes from mom, because usually most of the time it's mom that's talking to you in the house when there's something that's going on that's wrong. If dad had to be involved, that meant that there was something drastically wrong, and you didn't want to hear that, right? So there you go. So it's being sentimental at times and being yourself. And Rick Bowness there's nothing phony about Rick Bowness.
Mm.
Nothing phony. What you see is what you get. What you hear is exactly what he is believing in. He's not selling you. And like I said, he's a salesman, a good salesman, honest salesman.
Yeah.
He's telling you something that's good for you, that whatever he tells you, it's going to happen as a positive. He's not just out there trying to make $1 off of your back or to sell you a used car or something like that. And there are used car salesmen that are honest too, that I have found during my short life. So.
Well, yeah, usually longevity will dictate that. If you're still around after so many years, it means you've earned the respect of a number of people, and you can't fool them all the time, right?
Yeah,
but,
and Rick Bowness, and there's one other point I want to make. See, Rick Bowness, sometimes they say fired. He's not always fired or let go. No, and sometimes a lot of coaches, and I'm guilty of it. I just said, I'm moving on. I just say, okay, I know this, I'm gone. Vic, a lot of times he probably just said, well, look, time for me to move on. Or if you're working with someone that you know that's not compatible, you're not comfortable with them, et cetera, and so forth, he's not the type that's going to go out and make a great big history out of it and create all kinds of confusion. He'll just move on. So, and that's why he's always had a job. So you leave the dust behind. Because if you carry the dust with you, dust draws dirt, and dirt means you're not going to be working.
Sounds like he hasn't burned too many bridges, and that's why he's still there,
Well,
the factors.
You always burn a couple because
Sure.
that's human nature because there's egos involved. But when you're doing the right thing, you're always going to have some people that aren't happy with you because right's never wrong, and there's a lot of people that think they know more than what they should know. I mean, heck, I get up every morning, and I'm still learning something new, and I'm amazed by it. I'm amazed, but I have the time.
Yeah.
Rick Bowness as an assistant coach, has the time too. Don't forget, you have more time. The head coach doesn't have much time. The head coach is just 24/7. And Rick, he probably understood also at the same time that an opportunity would come along. Example right now, who's behind the bench of the Dallas Stars? Rick Bowness. He was in the right place.
Yep.
He put himself in the right place. Patience and understanding and making the adjustments. That's how he's having success. He's just, what you see Dallas doing is Rick Bowness. But the players have to buy into it, have to decide, the leaders in the room, and they all get together, and that's what makes the winners. Rick's part of the equation, and that's the other key. He makes himself a piece of the puzzle. He's not the whole puzzle. He makes sure that they all know he's just a piece of the puzzle, and the players know that he knows he needs them more than they need Rick. So Rick's a smart man.
Absolutely. You don't get there all those years without having some smarts to you, for sure.
Well, no, I just wanted to say on that matchup, and I'm going to go, the reason why Dallas also won, the hardest part, like I said, is that the patience and the consistency and having your leaders, your best player has to lead. Your best players aren't always going to show up, but your best player has to. Now, if for the next series coming up, right now, Rick Bowness is working on Segan. He's working on him because he knows he has to get more out of him. He has to give more. So he's probably right now, kitchen table values, he's sitting down with him and he's telling him, look, no, if they want to beat Tampa, they need more out of him. 200 by 85. And if they get that, they have a chance to beat Tampa. Anyways, let's go. Next.
So if you look at the final two teams that are going for the Cup now, instead of matching the two teams up, if you matched up the two coaches, what are we looking at for difference in styles and difference in the approach to the game and how this can unfold?
Well, you see, Tampa is loaded with skill and talent. They have depth. And sometimes when you have that, it permits a little bit of arrogance can kick in a little bit. And somewhat, let's just say. And a coach can sometimes think that he over-evaluate his value. But it's not an easy job. I'll give you an example. Kucherov is having a great series with Tampa Bay Lightning, but coaching staff didn't have much to do with that. That's Adam Oates. Adam Oates, a development coach who coached, Adam coached Washington and Anaheim in the NHL, but he also was a star in the NHL. But Adam is one of the best skilled development coaches out there,
And he
And
was
he
the best
charges
skilled. I would argue that he was the best skilled passer of all time. I don't.
one of them. One
Oh
of them.
my
One of
goodness,
them.
yeah, yeah.
One of
He
them.
was one of them for sure. And there's
He
an
was one of
example
them.
of knowing your
Because you
role.
don't forget Gretzky and Lemieux, and those guys could move Bellamo. They could all move the puck.
Yeah,
But
they did pretty well
to
for
get
themselves. You're right, they did.
yeah. But to get back to what I was saying, it's very simple. Kucherov, he had to show a little more character, play a little more heavy, own the puck a little more. His puck management, handling the gap control, because most people talk about they have a closed gap, and once the gap is closed, they don't tell the players how to compete versus the tight gap, because there are things you do. We're not doing that today. We're not in a seminar, and I'm not going to do that. So I'll save that for my work with the NHL. But the bottom line is Adam Oates, there's little details like that he brought to him, and Kucherov brought into it. Now, the coaching staff of Tampa Bay, they have Derek Lalonde. Derek Lalonde is a Rick Bowness. He's assistant coach in Tampa. I feel he's head coaching material, but he has qualities that he's probably the top hockey guru on that Tampa Bay Lightning hockey staff. I'm not talking GM. I'm talking the coaching staff. But no, if you look at Rick Bowness and the way he's going to present the team against Dallas, will play Tampa. Dallas are well aware Tampa's going to be throwing pucks at the net. They know they can't take penalties too much against Tampa because their power play is going to be 1-on-3, 1-on-4 out of 3, their percentages. So basically, they can't spend too much time in the box. However, Dallas has defensemen that are able to very adapt defensemen who can support the rush. They have a couple of tough Ds back there that can handle the physical part of the game. So the bottom line comes back to who is going to be able to handle the minutes that are played the best. Who's going to be able to get their top players out as much as possible in situations where they're able to be successful. This is where it's going to play. Now, Rick Bowness, he knows he doesn't have the same quality of players that they have as Cooper has in Tampa Bay. So he has to compensate. He'll find a way to compensate. This series is not going to be a cakewalk for Tampa Bay. I have news for them. Because when you get to the finals, every player on each team are going to elevate their game. Some are going to be so tight that they cannot perform, and this is what happens a lot. People say, well, why this player? He didn't show up. It's not that he didn't want to show up. It's because he just couldn't handle the pressure. It's tight. The game is everybody elevates their game to another level. You don't have that time and space because some of them just cannot adjust to it because their cerebral awareness is not there. They don't see it. So once you see it, it slows down. So there's a lot of little things, and Rick Bowness knows that he has to keep that game of his players to be able to see the game at a slower pace while functioning at a high speed, a high impact pace, intensity, consistent all the time, and be able to weather the storm when the ebbs and flows come in, because there's going to be ebbs and flows. Tampa's going to be coming at you hard, and then it'll be Dallas's turn. It'll pick up. So basically what he has to do is what they do with the puck management above, below, with and without the puck, what Dallas will do and how they apply to those areas when it's not going that well is going to dictate whether or not they win or not. Because Tampa has depth, but they can be beat. They can be beat, and they've got to get to the net, and you've got to make the goaltender move, because if you don't, he's going to stone you. He's the best goaltender in the National Hockey League.
And I think that Tampa should be talking to the NHL Players Association about being paid by the hour, because they have, I think, they're into their third game now of overtime extra.
They're being pushed, yeah. And which was good for Dallas, because it gave Dallas that extra, having to play that extra game and going into overtime, it gives Dallas times too to heal the little bobos and all the little small injuries that they have. But at the same time, I don't know, Stemko's going to be back in the lineup for Tampa, although he hasn't been an element of importance in the other series when he was there. I don't mean this year, but in previous seasons, because he's missed a couple of series with injuries before. But he's one that has to elevate his game. If he shows up and his game is elevated, the task will be hard for Dallas. But Dallas with Seguin, if Seguin steps his game up, I'm not worried about Radulov and Jamie Benn. Jamie Benn is going to be there, and the young defensemen in Dallas are just exciting to watch. And Bowness matches them well against the other teams. There were times where they weren't just finishing like they should have, because that's, how would I explain that? Sometimes they forget, they worry too much about scoring the goal instead of creating a scoring opportunity. And I know Rick's trying to implant that in their mindset. You create the scoring opportunity, either rebounds, deflections, etc., and so forth. There are different ways and mannerisms of doing that, and that's going to make a huge difference in that series too. It's going to come down to the little details between the two coaches. But the guy that I would fear the most on that coaching staff in Tampa Bay is Derek Lalonde. It's not John Cooper. For me, I respect Cooper, but I know them all. And Derek Lalonde is one heck of a hockey mind. Trust me. He's scary. He's scary. Scary, good, scary. And he's those kind of people are willing to exchange too. They're willing to they don't keep any secrets. They're willing to sit down and exchange.
Yeah, I was just going to say, everybody teaches everybody, don't they? You know?
Everybody teaches. Yeah, the NHL level, the pro level, the AHL, they all talk. I mean, I've been there, and I've seen sit down, and they, we'd bring in a video, and we'd sit down and break down a video. Hitch and the other guys, I'd be playing against them that night, maybe Kalamazoo when he was coaching Dallas' farm team, and we'd be sitting together. Hey, what are you doing on this power play, coach? And I said, gee, this is what I do. Look, but what are you doing on this? I have a problem down here when we're in the corners here and we're cycling in, cycling out. I'll give you an example, too. I always used to have the camera and the video camera was hooked up to the computer so I could see the game on the bench. You remember that in Campbellton? And some people were saying, well, why is he doing that? Well, you see what they're doing now in the National Hockey League? Where the computer? While in Campbellton, New Brunswick, John Paris Jr. and Zach Nehart Dan and to see the whole staff that was there. Jason LeBlanc, Remy. I had the computer in the hooked up to the video, and that's what I was doing. They weren't doing that in the NHL then. I'm not saying I invented it. No, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that it was misunderstood by some because, what are you doing with that? There, because they'd never seen it before. And now today, every bench has it in the National Hockey League, AHL, even Major Junior.
You had the innovation going. I always wondered what could have happened with the Restigouche Tigers. Had things not turned out the way they had with your health conditions and all the different things.
Oh so. No. Campbellton was good for me, regardless of the health, regardless of the team. And when we lost Marc Andre there in the third year, we knew that's the second year. We knew that was where the problem was coming in. But the hockey's like that. Hockey is it's situational and it's cyclic. So you can arrive into an area and you can have success one year, and the next year you can't, because you're dealing with younger players. You're not dealing with the best players, because your best players are playing at a higher level. But you're dealing with good people, but they don't have that same. You can't come from a higher level and expect that player at a lower level to execute what you want them to execute at the level of intensity and consistency that you're used to. And they're not going to do it because they've never been there and they have no understanding of it. So it's a whole different coaching program. That was good for me. Campbellton was perfect for me because I learned.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying. I just would like to have seen that team go.
Too that I met. So
yeah, I just wanted to see that team go to a championship, and I think you could have, with some time and some effort and a couple of years, you could have done it. But like you say, hockey is just in the middle of life, and life throws different things at you at different times, and then you adapt to the situation and move on, kind of thing. But
let's look at it this way. If you go into, if I look back, I know what I would have done. You don't do the same thing. If it's not working out, the team is not performing the way you want, you're going to adjust the following years. I'm not making that mistake again. So basically, when it came in, because the first year when we were in there, nobody thought we'd beat Woodstock. And we went and beat Woodstock in the playoffs right in their own building. We knocked them out in their own building. But then again, too, it wasn't the players there. The coach, Jason Tarek, was it that his name? He went to sleep on the bench. I'll say it in Woodstock, so I just took advantage of that. But sometimes when you think that you've been places that you have not been, it's not a plus for you unless you've really been there. And that's what happened to him. And not a bad person, but sometimes your ego can be very harmful. One of the top hockey people I've ever met comes from Campbellton, Remy LeBlanc. Now who would think that you would go to Campbellton, New Brunswick, and you would sit down and you would be talking to a young man works for social services and never coached at a high level, and never, but very intelligent young man. You start talking hockey with him, and then you start seeing it. And then suddenly you find out. So today, if I were coaching today, there would be two LeBlancs that I would take with me. It would be Jason LeBlanc and Remy LeBlanc. I'd go and get Remy. I'd say, Remy, come on, you're coming. We're going to the show. I'd take him, and I would not worry about it at all. I would have no second thoughts because I'd have two quality people that bring two different qualities, two different environmental and qualities of hockey environment with them, and that would just make me stronger. But basically there. Like Campbellton, New Brunswick. Don't kid yourself. Remy LeBlanc is one solid hockey guy.
That's...
And you need you need a person with a little pizzazz, and Jason LeBlanc brings that too, and he's a good hockey man. And he's growing. Every year he'll get better, but he's satisfied with being an assistant coach. But Remy LeBlanc is a social worker in Campbellton, New Brunswick. But he's one heck of a hockey mind. And I've been around the best coaches in the world, so I just don't throw that out just as a compliment. I don't compliment people. I tell the truth.
Yeah, well, that's a hell of an endorsement, and it's good to know that there's that kind of talent, that you see that kind of talent back home as well. I've always known that there was that kind of talent back home. I've always said it, and it's nice when you see somebody who wasn't brought up there to recognize it and see it, when you've worked there for a couple of years. So that's pretty cool. I just thought too, we were talking about being paid by the hour. I think as well, for promotional purposes and motivational desires, and I think we should get that defenseman who played for Columbus, who did 75 minutes in a game.
Seth Jones.
Yeah, well, 75 minutes.
Tampa Bay had him, and they didn't draft him. They could have drafted him third overall.
Yeah,
and they don't take him. They took Drouin, Jonathan Drouin.
Talk to that guy. Really? Oh yeah, he's a real workhorse. Yeah. What is it? This guy puts in 75 minutes a game. Really? Eh? 75? You mean like what? Well, you mean like with overtime? No. He puts in 75 minutes in a regulation game. Oh, yeah, you want him on the ice for sure.
What a 60-minute regulation game.
Yeah, he's putting in 75. Well, guys are putting in 120%. Why not, right?
But no, that was, and he would have been able to play again. No, he's a superstar defenseman, and why he was overlooked is beyond me. It's beyond me. I've been asking that question since the draft 2013. What's going on? How can you be that? That was incompetency. If that had happened in St. Louis, I'd have lost my job. I would have lost my job. The prof would have fired me. Yeah, because you can't. That's a franchise player. You just can't overlook it to take a. How do you overlook a 6'4" defenseman that can skate very well? He's mobile, has above average shot. His cerebral awareness is above average. He's out consistent in his play, and we haven't seen the best of him yet. He's still young and improving. Now, how do you overlook that? What was the reason for it? I would like to know. And you take another player that is not competitive, skilled and talented, a smaller player, skilled and talented, but not someone who competes shift after shift that you can build a team around. How do you do that? I don't know. Maybe somebody will give me the answer.
Well,
be shy.
I think.
Don't be shy. Give me the answer, whatever you think. No, because something like that needs to be. That's idiotic.
Yeah.
And it's beyond me. Just idiotic. I have no understanding. And he's a good person. So there's no underlining current of him doing something that's wrong outside of the ice surface. No, sorry. No, Seth Jones is a good person. So
we'll have to. That is
where was the problem?
There's the topic for an upcoming series. Why did Seth Jones go to Columbus? We've got it all in a 10-part series.
But
right?
Why did he go to Nashville? Nashville drafted him. Why wasn't he drafted 3rd overall? How did he, and why? And that we can go after Nashville too. Why would Nashville trade him for Johansson? There's no way. It doesn't make sense. One underachieves, is not known to be the hardest worker, and you trade it. Well, okay. So Nashville trades him to Columbus. So I mean, basically, they had to give him up. But then again, you can go back and you can talk about the Subban Weber trade. There's some things we know why Subban was traded from Montreal, but why was Weber traded from Nashville? And why would Weber be eliminated? Because not just a salary cap issue, to take on maybe the personality of PK, who's not a bad person or anything. It's just that a lot of people don't understand the cultural, they're not culturally aware. The privilege factor is there, and sometimes they forget that people are allowed to be themselves as long as they're competing on the ice surface and not creating a problem. If I don't want to listen to Jimmy Smith playing the organ and you want to listen to, I don't know, Boz Skaggs, that's fine. I don't care. I don't have a problem with it.
I like
Maybe
Boz.
that's where the problem
I like Boz. Big fan. Big
I
fan
like
of Boz
Boz
Skaggs.
too.
I like.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
John Paris on the keyboards with Ray Charles. That's.
Yeah, well, I'm not Ray Charles, but
When you
I'll
played
play
with
a little
him,
blues for you.
you jammed
I'll
with
tell
him.
you a story. One day I was talking to a person and he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "You have a keyboard?" Yeah. I said, "I play keyboard." I said, "I can play gigs and that." I don't believe that. I said, "Well, that's your problem." And I just walked away. I didn't say anymore, because there's no you can't argue with that. So, but I believe after, if he reads the internet or if he hears the news or reads books, he'll find out that, yeah, John Parrish does play keyboard, and he can read music too.
Yeah.
And he can sing a little bit, and he can play just about anything he wants, including classical. But I like jazz and blues.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more about that story, then you go to downhomecorner.com and you check out the episode with John Paris Jr. There you go.
No, not certain, but it's just so that those are just anecdotes that happen when you're out there. Like I told a person that one day, he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I was going into the side door at an arena in Milwaukee." He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to the dressing room. First, I'm going to stop by my office." He said, "Well, for what?" He said, "You don't have an office here." I said, "Well, there's one in the dressing room, and it has my name on it. Every time the team comes in, your name's on. They put your name on that, and they take it off for the next team." So he said, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Well," "figure it out." I said, "I'm just nobody. I'm just going in there." So he said, "Well," he says, "you can't be the trainer." He said, "You the stick boy?" I said, "That too." I said, "I can be the stick boy. I've done that." So he said, "Well, you can't come in here." So about that time, coming around the corner is the manager, assistant manager of the building, I remember. And, "Hey, coach, how are you?" So the guy, instead of the gentleman that, saying, "Well, excuse me, you can go in," he said, "Well, that's not the coach."
He doubled down.
Yeah, he doubled down. So that's why kitchen table values, my mother said, you never argue with people like that.
Good point. Your mom was a smart woman.
Yeah, you don't argue. You just keep going. You smile. So I smiled and went over business.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the story we should end the episode with, and let's pick it up one more time at the end of.
No, Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz. Hey, come on now. We can't let him go.
Okay, you want to
They
talk?
don't sign him in Washington because they don't want to pay him. The man wins the Stanley Cup. They don't want to pay him.
That's
so
why
they let him go.
That's why he ended up with New York Islanders, because I wondered about that.
That's
right?
a true story. That's the inside story I'm giving you. They did not want to pay him the exuberant amount of money, so they knew that they could take the assistant coach. They pay him less. Now they had to go out and pay. Now they hired Laviolette. They got to pay him. when they had Barry Trotz right there, and Barry Trotz, here's this is a true life story in coaching, and a lot of people are probably unaware of this. Development of coaches happens at all levels. Barry Trotz, when he started out, when he was in the AHL, and then he started the show, he wasn't what you would call a high-end coach. He became a high-end coach. He developed into one because that's what happens. You just don't walk into the leagues and be. You have to learn the league. You have to understand all of the idiosyncrasies of it, et cetera, and so forth. It's like going to college, going for your PhD. The bottom line is, every year he improved, and it took years. And this is why a lot of the coaches, the recycling happens. People have to understand that recycling is because the coaches are learning. They're continuing to grow, the majority of them. And when they hit a peak, when they do peak out, well, they're gone. But Barry Trotz continued to progress. And he progressed so much that he's one of the top-notch coaches in the National Hockey League today. And this is and he proved the point with Long Island, with the Islanders. He proved it with Washington. Now, we could take another story and we can go on at Tortorella. That's with Columbus. He's not an X and O guy, but he's very solid behind the bench and preparing his players, et cetera, and so forth, tactical. However, these gentlemen are very smart. They're going to have solid hockey people around them. If they need somebody for X and O's for specialty teams, et cetera, they're going to have an assistant coach to handle that. The coaching is completely different. It's not like coaching in minor hockey where you're out doing everything. No. In the NHL, you surround yourself with people just as strong or stronger than yourself, and then they make you better so that you become you're as a group, you're able to help the players become better, which helps the team become better, which overall the structure improves, and then your chances of having more success are elevated. And that's all it is. And that's why those coaches stay there. So don't throw stones at those coaches and say, they keep bringing back, they're not giving them. You just don't walk in the National Hockey League. And if you're fortunate enough to be one of those ones to get there or to those high levels, you better be darn good at what you're doing. You better have earned it because there's nothing given to you for nothing. But Barry Trotz became he's probably one of the 5 top coaches in the National Hockey League today.
Yeah, well,
but he earned it.
He's proved it. He took Nashville and like you said, improved. That's what he did with that team. And then when he finally moved on from that, and then with Nashville, because
Nashville and Washington,
and he got Washington over the hump. They were the bridesmaid for years, and then boom, and I thought, geez, when he leaves a Stanley Cup win to go to another team, that's like you're starting thinking of like Al McNeil type of things, where he wins. But I mean that's what enters your mind. You think, geez, like
I know this is what people think the rumor mill.
Well, but I'm just saying, how
they just didn't want to pay him.
Yeah,
they did not want to pay him. Listen, he was not making a fortune in Nashville.
Well, they're gonna back up truckloads of money for him now. So I'm telling you.
When you win a Stanley Cup, or you've been there and you have success, and you've been in the league years, you want a substantial amount on your contract. You want to be paid according to the norms, and they did not want to do that. We're not pulling any stones here. We're just tell the truth. So that's all. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Okay, now they have to pay. They have to pay Laviolette in Washington. He's probably making $3 million now, probably something like that. Who knows? A year. But they didn't want to give Trotz. Well, pay the man.
I know it's
he's
silly.
Quality. The years are there. So
well, they'll be backing up truckloads of money for him in New York. Like for him now. I would think.
The Islanders took care of him, and he moved on. And I'm not worried for Barry Trotz at all. And if you look around the league, they're great. Now there are some great young coaches in there. Quinn in New York is outstanding. He'll be around for a long time. I'm not worried about him. No, there's a few young guys, but the problem is there's only 32 teams.
Yep.
And you can't just and in order to even have an opportunity, you have to win somewhere. If you haven't won, how are you going to know how to win? When you lose, you learn how to lose, because that's a learning capacity too. That's part of your toolbox when you lose. So when you win, you learn too. Oh, this is what happens. So you have to benefit from your mistakes, and you're going to make the mistakes, poor decisions, good decisions. You just can't make that same poor decision over and over and over again. You have to learn from it and make new poor decisions, not old poor decisions. We can end it with that. But Barry Trotz, no, he deserves kudos for his work with Long Island. I'm anxious to see the Dallas Tampa Bay series. What do you think? Are you any prognostics on your side?
Well,
game-wise?
Yeah, well, my heart's going with Dallas because of the bonus factor and a little bit of the overconfidence factor with Tampa, I think. And I think they're running a little scared because the pressure is on them. They should be there and they should be, the favorites type of thing, and might not happen that way, But again, you made it to the finals and it's like a game 7. There's no real advantage anymore. You're in the finals. Anybody can win, Let's see what happens, And
Tampa has an advantage, though. Tampa's been there before, and they didn't win it.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about back when they won. I'm talking about when they should have won it. They've been at the dance a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then when Columbus spanked them a year ago, they remember that. So they're going to bring it. They're going to bring it. They're going to leave everything on the table, on the kitchen table. They're going to leave everything that they have. Yeah. Everything that they have. Yeah. And this is where Rick Bowness is going to have to find something pull something out of his hat to get his third and fourth line. They're going to have to bring something because Jamie Benn, I'm not worried about, but he's going to have to get a little more from them. But it's going to be an interesting series. Personally, I think I'd like Dallas to win, but I think Tampa has a little bit too much depth at the moment and experience. Dallas is young on the back end. So we'll see what happens. I just want to see a good series.
Yeah, I'd love to see that go 7 games.
I want to see, and I want to see good management. I want to see good management, not the coaching staff. I want to see the players. I want to see how the players, their bench management, because players also have to have bench management. This is something that's not taught in the minors. We teach this in the American League and on up, but I try to teach it. If I were coaching today, I'd be teaching it to kids. I'd be teaching bench management to kids right away, saying, hey, you're a coach. You have to think like a coach. You're playing. You want the game to slow down. You want to understand it. Start using the thought process as a coach.
Yeah,
you're not playing. Watch the game as a coach.
Let's cover that in the next episode. That's some
we'll go through it.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's end with one story. You're talking about the Islanders, and you're talking about leaving it all on the ice. Wayne Gretzky and whoever he's with at the time, it could have been Messi, I'm not sure. They have just lost to the New York Islanders for the Stanley Cup. And it's in Long Island. And they know that the way the dressing rooms are set up, that they have to walk past the Islanders' dressing room on the way out. And they go, oh, goodness, we got to go by there, and they're going to be celebrating the win. And Gretzky says when we went by their dressing room, so we looked in expecting to see all this jubilation, and he said, we saw this team so banged up. He said they looked like they had nothing left, like that you could have walked in and taken over the room, that they had nothing left to fight with. He said, that's how we have to look, he said, in order to win the cup. And the next year they did. But he discovered that that's what it was. It was not about, he said, we felt like we could play another series, And he said, the Islanders looked like they couldn't play another period. And he said, that's how it is. Yeah,
leave it all on the ice.
On the ice. Anyway, John.
And they learned. But before you go with that Gretzky thing there, they how would I say that? They got their PhD that night. They all received their PhD. They were that's like why they won after that.
I like
and
that.
They had their PhD. So.
Yeah.
And this is what, and they need to instill this at a younger level.
Yeah.
And they need to stop this foolishness about always telling them about fun. If you're passionate with something, you're already going to have fun.
Yeah.
And fun is some people have fun drinking alcohol or doing drugs. Jeez. So no, come on. So we just have to identify where our positive points are, what direction you want to take, guide them, and help them be better prepared. Instead of worrying about winning hockey games every night. I was watching a Bantam game the other day. They were playing 4-on-4, and coaches worry more about winning. I said, well, it doesn't matter whether you win there. I said, nobody's going to know about it. I said, there's nobody in the building. There's no media. I said, but if a couple of kids progress and they're able to move forward and they're learning, well, then they're going to know. Well, I played at with this team in Dallas, at this arena, this coach. That's the way it works. That's how you get your job, too. So all you aspiring coaches out there, just remember, you get your job when you win, but the players, when they move out, they'll talk about you. They'll say, oh, he was a good one. Then your phone will ring. But if you weren't doing the right things and you weren't a good one and you were only in it for yourself, you're going to be back home watching games on TV saying, oh, how come he's there and I didn't get there?
It's a team.
Have a good night.
Team sport, even for coaches. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
All right. Well, enjoy the finals. I know I will. And like you, I just hope it goes 7 games, or at least it's a fun finals. And we'll talk at the end, and then, we'll see what we can set up for next season. But I always appreciate your conversations. I always learn so much about the game, and I always have some fun doing it. So thanks again, John Paris Jr.
Well, we learn from each other, and I have fun going through it. And thank you for having me on, co-hosting with you. It's a pleasure. We have any future guests coming up? That's something I would like to have thrown out there. Do we have anybody, any names coming forward, or do you want me to? Maybe I'll bring in somebody.
Yeah, well, let's see what. I hear you're connected. Let's see who you know.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll pull that one off. What do you want? What could we do? Maybe we'll bring in. Let's watch a series. Once the series is over, the final Stanley Cup. Maybe let's go with maybe Kudobin or maybe Freddie. I've got a couple of guys. Yanni. There's a couple of coaches down there. Derek Malone's down there in Tampa Bay. Maybe we'll get him on, or one of them. Maybe France Jan, the goaltending guru that's in Tampa.
Yeah, get Rick Bowness. Get Rick Bowness to give us a call. How's that sound?
You'd want that? Well, let's see what we can do. Let's surprise some people. We'll see what we can do.
Surprise me anyway. What the hell, right?
Well, if we can't surprise somebody, then what else is worth it? You might have to give them a tea or a coffee.
Oh, well, we could do that. Yeah.
No donuts, so he doesn't eat donuts.
No, well, we'll get him some Tim Hortons. We'll bribe a Canadian with the coffee. There you go.
I just say get apple pie. He's going to be busy though after, but I will see those guys because I'll be speaking at some of the, some of the seminars, clinics that they'll be having once this pandemic is over. So people will be hearing from me, the good and the bad part of it. But I won't pull any bones, and I'm not going to give them just drills. I'll explain to them exactly what is the right route to take and how to get there. Now, I can't say you're going to stay, but I can explain what the coaches do to get there. It's more than X and O's.
Yep. Yeah, you always explain so much. Like I say, I always learn a lot just chatting with you. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you for listening, those that are listening.
Downhome Hockey is a production of Downhome Corner. Listen to all our episodes anytime at downhomecorner.com. Thanks for joining us. That's our regular season, episode 4. Coming up on episode 5, Overtime, our final episode of the season. Don't miss it. I'm Steve Bujold, and for my co-host John Paris Jr., catch you next time on Downhome Hockey.